You're listening to The Cash Podcast, creating affluence, success, and happiness with your financial surgeon, Adam Koos, President and Portfolio Manager at Libertas Wealth Management Group at libertaswealth.com.
All right, this week's podcast is being recorded a little earlier than usual. Today is actually Tuesday, May 25th, so there are some of you who are subscribers to iTunes or YouTube that surely received this a little earlier than everyone else, but still, I'm going to say Happy Friday, everyone, since we don't email the official notifications out via email and post them on social media until the end of the week. So we were just getting a little ahead of the ball game this week. So this week we're going to break through the minutia, confusion, and what probably seems to a lot of people like clutter in the financial industry, and go through the four main types of financial people, we're calling it, and what makes them all different. But as always, a few housekeeping items first. If this is your first time listening or watching, thank you for joining us. The Cash Podcast is produced weekly, and as stated in the intro, Cash stands for creating affluence, success, and happiness, and that's my mission. My hope is for you to learn a little bit more on each and every episode so that you become more successful, wealthier, happier, and more educated than you were before you started listening today. So come back often. Feel free to subscribe on iTunes and YouTube. Check out our older videos if you're looking for any particular topic that you might find interesting. In addition, you can also follow me on Twitter at Adam Koos and on Instagram at Financial Surgeon. Last but not least, all links, visuals, charts, and other educational resources, if you're looking for them, are always available on our website at libertaswealth.com. So let's go ahead and get started with the quote of the day. And I thought this was really applicable here when we talk about minutia, confusion, all the things that just don't make a whole lot of sense in this world, and I think the financial industry is no exception. We're going with a quote from Winnie the Pooh, and he said that one of the advantages of being disorganized is that one is always having surprising discoveries. And I think that's hilarious because in our normal lives, maybe if we're disorganized, we find something we forgot about at home, something we lost and forgot about. It's like, oh, there's that thing that I lost so long ago, and, it's almost like getting a new present, finding $5 inside the dryer after you wash your clothes, things like that. But when it comes to your, financial future and understanding your finances, understanding the financial advisory firms you work with, understanding the different types of professionals that you can work with, I think, surprising discoveries are probably not always good. In fact, one of the things we like to say here at our office, and we say it often, is, when putting together a financial plan, retirement plan, estate plan for a client, we always say that we want to be conservative. If there's going to be surprises, we want them to be good surprises, not bad surprises. So let's go ahead and move into the meat of the conversation today. So we're going to talk about the four different types of financial people. And the first type is an insurance agent. Or insurance agents, and this can be people who work for companies such as John Hancock, New York Life, Principal, Lincoln, Prudential, Nationwide, AIG. The list goes on and on and on. There are tons, Banner. There's tons of insurance companies in the world and in the country here in the U.S. that would fall under, call it a company that an insurance agent would work for. As far as what insurance agents do, because I'm going to talk about what these professionals and what these companies do, and then we'll talk about what they typically don't do. And I'm not drawing a hard line here, so there's going to be some gray area. So I'm going to say this is what they typically do and what they typically don't do. So health insurance agents, we're not going to talk a lot about them because I don't think we're really talking about health insurance today. We're talking more about the financial world, which health is kind of part of it, but not so much. So health insurance agents, they're licensed to sell health insurance. They can do it to groups, big and small. They can sell to individuals. These days, there's a whole lot more companies selling to larger groups or just groups in general than you'd find individual insurance agents, just for the simple fact that you have the exchanges and all the things that have changed in this world lately. And then we have life, long-term care, fixed and variable annuity agents. So these are insurance agents that can sell life insurance, long-term care insurance, fixed annuities, variable annuities, the different types of life insurance, of course, whole life insurance, universal life insurance, variable universal life insurance, the different type of hybrid long-term care life insurance policies, which is a discussion for another day. But this is, so when we think about insurance agents, this is what they do. I mean, typically they're focused on things like life insurance, long-term care insurance, fixed annuities, variable annuities, equity indexed annuities, fixed indexed annuities, hybrid annuities. So you could just say annuities, I guess, just to lump all the annuities together. But so that's what they typically do. What they don't typically do, insurance agents, they typically don't do any sort of advanced financial planning and wealth management. They're focused on the insurance space, even though some of those insurance products are definitely things that should be considered investments, whether it's through an insurance policy. Obviously, we could start a whole debate on whether how those are coded or how they're considered in the eyes of the SEC and FINRA, but that's, again, another story for another day. But bottom line, they typically don't do advanced planning, wealth management. They typically don't do investment management. And again, this might be debatable here, but when an insurance agent sells one of their clients a fixed annuity, there's nothing really to manage. When an insurance agent sells their client a equity indexed annuity or a fixed indexed annuity or a hybrid indexed annuity, you might want to observe and potentially make a change to the index option being used, or the way that the growth is calculated. You might make a change to that once a year, perhaps. But generally speaking, I don't see or hear of a lot of clients who work with insurance agents having those things adjusted or having them managed per se. Same goes for variable annuities. Even though variable annuities are like investment portfolios with insurance wrappers. That's probably the best way to think of them. Inside those variable annuities are investments, and typically I don't see them being managed by the insurance agent. They might be set up for automatic rebalancing. They might be set up in a target date fund, let's just say, that gets more and more conservative as they get closer to retirement. But in terms of hands-on active management, paying attention to the investments on an ongoing basis, you just don't see that a lot. And then the other thing would be estate planning. This is probably pretty far away. Estate planning and tax planning, both actually. Insurance agents aren't really in the business of doing much with estate planning or tax planning unless working with a CPA and an attorney, they might help, say, put together the insurance policy that might help to pay death taxes, let's just say, or it might help with a business succession plan. So that's insurance agents. Let's move on and let's talk about discount brokerage firms. Discount brokerage firms are companies like Vanguard, Fidelity, E-Trade, Interactive Brokers, Charles Schwab, TD Ameritrade Retail. Robinhood is probably the most recent that's become very famous. What they typically do is they offer access to trade stocks for individuals like yourself. So if you want to manage your own money and do everything yourself, then they're going to offer access to trade stocks, bonds, exchange-traded funds, or ETFs for short, mutual funds, and they're going to do it at a very, very low cost, in a low-cost fashion. In fact, commissions are almost non-existent anymore these days. So when you buy or sell an investment at one of these firms, you're typically not going to pay any sort of commission. They're getting paid in a different way, which we'll talk about later. So that's what they do. But what they typically don't do is they don't do any sort of advanced financial planning. They don't give any advice in terms of investment management, unless you pay a larger fee, of course, which obviously it's all of a sudden it's not a discount brokerage firm anymore, but I digress. So there's not really any wealth management going on. There's, like I said, investment management advice, very, very rare, and if it exists, they're going to be charging a larger fee for it, so it's not like it's free. And even then, you have to be careful because some of the places that have their own proprietary investments might encourage you to use their investments as opposed to other companies' investments, which would be a conflict of interest. Discount brokerage firms, they also don't do estate planning. They also don't really do any tax planning as well. So we've talked about insurance agents as one of the four types of financial people. Discount brokerage firms aren't really people per se, but they're the second type of financial people. Let's go on to the third. A third type of financial person or professional would be what's called a fee-based financial advisory firm. And the key phrase here is fee-based, and this is where the minutia starts, unfortunately. And if your head's not spinning yet, then stay with me here. Let me help walk you through this. So, companies that are considered fee-based, this is where it gets confusing, are most of the companies you've heard of: UBS, Ameriprise, Edward Jones, Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, Stifel Nicholas, Wells Fargo, Raymond James. The names go on. All the big national firms and international firms, really, that you've heard of are all considered fee-based firms. Now, what makes them fee-based? Well, what are they typically doing? Well, they're primarily doing investment management. Now, again, I don't want to get any hate mail here, but I used to be on my firm, Libertas Wealth Management, used to be on the fee-based side of the fence for years, earlier in my career. So we've been on both the fee-based and the fee-only side, which is what we're going to talk about last. That's the fourth type. So the fee-based firms typically, I believe CEG, John Bowen, CEG, did a study and found that only 6.6% of financial advisory firms do any sort of advanced wealth management, advanced financial planning. And 6.6% is a very small number. Years ago, Cerulli and Associates did a study, and they found that only 19% of firms did proactive, planning-based wealth management, as opposed to the 81% of firms surveyed that primarily just did investment management, and that was it. So I'm not trying to pick on anybody here. I'm just trying to draw lines of separation and comparison. So typically, that doesn't mean all of them. There are several financial advisors, I know some of them personally, who do financial planning, who do advanced wealth management, and work for these bigger fee-based firms. So when they do them, typically they're doing it for an additional fee, of course. It's, again, while it's rare, it would typically be a hard dollar cost in most cases. Now, what don't they do? They don't typically do tax planning unless the financial advisor at the firm happens to be a CFP, a certified financial planner. Same thing with estate planning. They're typically not doing a lot of estate planning advice unless they're a certified financial planner professional, again, because the education isn't there or the background isn't there. Now, I'm sure there's plenty of financial professionals who have the education just through experience alone that don't have the letters after their name that probably offer wonderful advice in these areas. But again, I'm just trying to speak to what we typically see and what we typically don't. So we typically don't see firms doing a lot of tax planning, estate planning. It's usually focused on the investment management piece and not so much on advanced planning. Okay, so we talked about the first type of firm or financial people, which is your insurance agent. Second type was discount brokerage. Your third type are fee-based financial advisory firms. Now the third type is what's called a fee-only firm or fee-only fiduciary firm. And again, this is where the minutia kind of gets a little confusing, and my goal here is to somehow make it easy, or at least easier, to understand the differences between all the firms and the professionals. So fee-only firms are different in that the first thing you'll notice right off the bat is that you're not going to have heard of most of these firms. So where all the fee-based firms are companies you've heard of because there's commercials, you see signs everywhere. The companies are typically local. For fee-only fiduciary firms, they're typically locally established firms, and the way it works is they have to hire a custodian, such as TD Ameritrade Institutional, Charles Schwab, Interactive Brokers, Fidelity, which ironically are the same discount brokerage firms that are being used by the retail individual investor who wants to do it all him or herself. So the way it works on the fee-only fiduciary side is you may not have heard of the firm unless you've driven by and seen a sign on the door, on a building. But they're in Columbus, Ohio here, we're the 14th largest city in the country. So when I say there's about 20 to 25 fiduciary firms here in Central Ohio, that's not a lot, obviously. There's much, much fewer fee-only fiduciary financial advisory firms than there are fee-based firms, obviously. So, but anytime you see one of these firms, they're being backed by, or in other words, the insurance and the security that they hold is based on the custodian that they've hired. In the case of our firm, we've hired TD Ameritrade and Charles Schwab. So that's where the client's money is held. It's as opposed to, say, a fee-based firm such as the UBSs, the Wells Fargos of the world. The money, the client's money is actually held at that firm, not at another custodian typically. So what do fee-only fiduciary firms do? Well, investment management, of course, typically. That kind of goes without saying. If you haven't seen a trend there so far, then now you do. Advanced financial planning and wealth management is much, much, much more common here. So where you don't see really any advanced planning or wealth management at the discount brokerage or insurance agents side, and you start to see a little bit of it, or at least a little more, in the fee-based side. Fee-only fiduciary firms, the vast majority of them, I should say, I don't want to say all of them, but it's much more common to see full-blown, comprehensive, holistic financial planning, estate planning, tax planning. There's a lot more CFPs that work for these firms. So tax planning happens. CFP professionals typically who work for these firms are in charge of doing that planning. So you get a more of a holistic approach at the fiduciary fee-only firms. Now, what they don't do, and this is a clear distinction between fee-only fiduciaries and the rest of the companies, is they do not offer any sort of insurance of any kind. So whether it's life insurance, long-term care insurance, annuities would be an insurance product. So fixed annuities would be not something they would really offer. They're typical variable annuities. There are what are called fiduciary fee-only annuities, variable annuities, as well as some of the other investments that are out there in terms of annuities specifically. But when it comes to insurance, it's rare. Again, I don't want to say never, but it's very, very rare to see a fee-only fiduciary firm that also has an insurance arm or has an advisor or advisors that are selling insurance. And by the way, I said advisors. There's one of the pieces of minutia is that your fee-based firms, when you see financial advisor, that word, it's spelled advisor, like O-R, with an O-R at the end, whereas the fiduciary firms, the way it's spelled is E-R. So there's been a couple times in my career where somebody has corrected my spelling when really it's actually supposed to be spelled advisor with an E-R. So just kind of a little, not so well-known fact there. So again, we've gone through all four types of financial people, but I feel like maybe we need to go into a little bit more depth to differentiate them all by just saying, how does everybody get paid? And that's probably gonna help a little bit here. So first and foremost, how do insurance agents get paid, insurance companies? Well, first, it's going to be commissions. It's commissions on the sale of an insurance product, whether that's life, health, long-term care. It could be an annuity, fixed annuity, variable annuity, indexed annuity of any kind. There's going to be a commission. And then the insurance companies can also make money through the penalties that are paid to those insurance companies if you get rid of your annuity or insurance product too early. There's what's called surrender charges, which is a cost that the insurance company takes to help recoup the commissions that were paid to the insurance agent in question. So, if you see a 10-year penalty or a 15-year penalty on an insurance product, then that penalty is there to help recoup the costs of the commissions paid to the agent in question. So those are the two main ways that they're getting paid, is again commissions and then penalties for the companies, and over withdrawals as well, I should say that. So sometimes certain insurance policies or annuities will have provisions that say you can't take out more than X% per year without a penalty, and if they over withdraw, then they can pay a penalty or they can see a reduction in one of their guarantees or something along those lines. Discount brokerage firms, so that's insurance agents, that's the first one. The second, again, discount brokerage firms, the way they get paid is, first of all, commissions per trade, if that's applicable. Like I said when we first started, you almost never ever see commissions anymore on the discount brokerage side. Those have kind of started going away, if not completely. I'd be surprised if we could find a discount brokerage firm that charges commissions anymore. The other way they get paid is what's called interest sweep rates on cash or money market rates. So if you have a money market account there, and let's just say it pays you 0.2%, the actual rate that they're getting from the money market itself, the treasuries and T-bills and so on, might be 0.3. So they might be taking 0.1% from that sweep. And then expense ratios. So this would be the investment costs on proprietary investments for things like mutual funds and exchange traded funds. So at Fidelity has Fidelity mutual funds. What else? So you've got Vanguard. Vanguard's got Vanguard mutual funds. So if you invest in their funds, then they make money on that side as well. And then there's this thing called payment for order flow, easier for me to say, or PFOF. 60% of all the investing is done on what's called the lit market, or when you think lit, think it's lit up. It's like you can see it. It's like on the exchange, on the NYSE, and so on. 40% of the investments are done off the exchange. So this is done through wholesale market makers, dark pools, basically order flow that takes place when you buy or sell an investment. Oftentimes will happen before it ever gets to the exchange and money is made on the difference or the spread between the bid, what's called the bid and the ask. But that's as nerdy as we're going to get today. So discount brokerage firms, you might think they're free. They're not. Everybody's making money somewhere. So even though they seem very, very inexpensive, and they are, as long as they're not charging you an additional fee for helping you pick investment allocation or something like that, then generally they are, like I said, the least expensive by far. When we move on to the fee-based firms, the fee-based firms are going to charge, can charge commissions on stocks, bonds, IPOs, new issues, secondary offerings, mutual funds, ETFs, insurance, and annuities. So fee-based firms can offer everything, including insurance, and they can earn commissions if they choose to on any of those investments as well. They can also charge, if they want, a flat fee, say hard dollar for financial planning and so on. They can also charge a percentage of the assets that they're managing for you. So it can be one or the other. There's different ways that they can get paid, which is probably one of the biggest differences between fee-based financial advisory firms that don't have, full independence to kind of do whatever they want. In terms of investment selection, there's sometimes what are called preferred funds lists, and there's certain incentives for people to use those lists. And obviously, the mutual funds, the ETFs, the companies, the annuities that are on those lists are paying to be on those lists. So anyway, there's different ways that fee-based firms can get paid. And like I mentioned earlier, I've been on both sides of the fence. Our firm used to be a fee-based financial advisory firm earlier in my career until we converted to a fee-only firm. And the way the fee-only firms work and the way they get paid are, first of all, they're legally unable to charge commissions or earn commissions. And that's probably, again, kind of like going back to earlier where I said fee-based firms can charge a commission, or they can charge a flat fee, or they can charge a percentage of assets managed, or maybe a combination of a couple of those things, like a flat fee for planning and a percentage, or a flat fee and a commission. These things can happen at once, whereas fee-only firms are legally unable to charge commissions at all. And when we had a client once ask us, just recently, actually, I'm surprised this was the first time I'd been asked this question, but they said, how is this enforced? How is it that you are unable to have these, how are you considered a fiduciary, true fiduciary, just by saying you're a fiduciary? And the answer to that is that because if you can't charge commissions at all, then there is no incentive to invest someone's money in XYZ investment over ABC investment. It doesn't make any bit of difference because the fee-only firms get paid exactly the same. So, the fiduciary standard is, based on the concept that, firms should be doing what's best for the client, even if that means making less money for the firm. And I can't count how many times we've provided advice that turned out to be advice that would keep us from making more money because it was best for the client. Just did it today, actually. Anyway, another thing about fee-only firms is they can't accept referral fees. So if let's just say an attorney or a CPA says, "Hey, I want to pay you for every client that you send me or refer to me," fee-only firms are not allowed to do that. They're not allowed to accept those types of fees. And they also will charge, for fiduciary firms will typically charge an AUM fee, so a percentage of assets that they manage for you, or they will charge a flat fee to just do a financial plan. And maybe you come back once every year, once every 2 years, maybe more. The flat fee, again, like I mentioned earlier, can be based on income, net worth, liquid net worth, and it can be as little as, say, $2,500, and it can go upwards of $50,000 to $100,000, just depending on how complex your situation is, whether you own a business or not, and so on. So there's lots of variables there. But again, the difference, probably the biggest difference between fee-based and fee-only, is that fee-only fiduciary firms are held to that fiduciary standard, which means, again, that they must make decisions that are in the client's best advice or best interest, even if that means making less money for the firm. And the way, again, that is enforced is through the fact that back when I started my career, I had a Series 7, Series 63, Series 24 license. I had a life, health, long-term care insurance license, annuity license. I had all those licenses, and when we converted our firm years ago to a fiduciary firm, we had to drop all those licenses because legally, if you have a license to sell an investment for a commission, then you can accept a commission, and therefore that's not technically a true fiduciary. And we can call that fact, or we can call it my opinion. There's a lot of legislation. There's a lot of things that have happened at Washington this last several years to change the definition of what a fiduciary is. But I'm not even going to touch that. So if you have any questions, let me know. Please shoot us an email. Happy to answer any additional questions privately, or even turn your questions into another podcast. So today, that's it. Feel free to share this episode with your friends and family. And if you'd like to discuss your personal situation further, please remember that you never, ever, ever have to be a client to ask a question. If you'd like to set up an intro call with myself or a Zoom meeting, just head over to our website, and you can either send us an email, send us a form message on our contact page, or there's a link right there in our contact page that gives you the ability to get access to our calendar. As I always say, there's thousands of podcasts out there, and you chose to give ours a listen today, so thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe on both iTunes and YouTube, and remember, you can sign up at libertaswealth.com to not only get these updates, but other screencast videos and articles delivered directly to your email inbox whenever they're released. Feel free to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/LibertasWealth. I'm also on Twitter at Adam Koos, and again on Instagram at Financial Surgeon. Thank you again so much once again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Cash Podcast with your financial surgeon, Adam Koos. To see any charts or images that were mentioned in this show, or to check out additional articles, videos, and other educational resources, head over to libertaswealth.com.